Let's say you're outside. Maybe you're walking to work. Maybe you're sitting in traffic. Maybe you're just grabbing coffee. And then, without any warning, the sky turns white. Not bright. White. Brighter than anything you've ever seen. That's not a metaphor. That's the thermal flash of a nuclear bomb. And in the next few seconds, where you are standing will determine everything. This video is going to walk you through exactly what happens, zone by zone, distance by distance. Based on a real modern warhead, a 300 kiloton bomb. That's about 20 times the size of the one dropped on Hiroshima. No panic, no doom, just the facts, and what you can actually do about it. Let's start at the center and work our way out. If you are within 1 kilometer of where that bomb goes off, there's no script for you. There's no survival tip. There's nothing. At ground zero, temperatures reach 100 million degrees Celsius. That's hotter than the core of the sun. Anyone nearby isn't burned. They're vaporized. Bone turns to dust. You're just gone. The fireball alone stretches nearly a mile in diameter. Wind speeds inside that radius exceed 500 miles per hour. Rubble piles 30 feet deep. Buildings don't collapse. They disappear. This isn't a movie explosion. There's no shockwave knocking people back dramatically. You don't feel anything. You don't see anything. At this distance, you are gone before your brain can process fear. This is where it starts to get complicated. You might survive here. Might. The fireball doesn't reach you directly, but the blast wave does. A 300 kiloton airburst creates overpressures strong enough to destroy most houses, gut skyscrapers, and cause widespread fatalities, all within seconds of the explosion. Think about what that means physically. The air itself becomes a weapon. Within a 1 kilometer radius, wind speeds can reach 756 kilometers per hour. Technically, the human body can withstand that pressure, but most people are killed by falling buildings. Cars get picked up like toys. Concrete walls come down. In this zone, sturdier buildings, reinforced concrete, may stay standing. But lighter commercial buildings and wood frame houses, destroyed. And if you're indoors when it hits, that's actually the key. This is the first real survival lesson in this video. Being indoors changes everything. School personnel who were indoors had a much higher survival probability than those outside at the time of the explosion. We know this from Hiroshima. Real data, real people. One survivor, Akiko Takakura, was standing just 300 meters from the hypocenter of the Hiroshima bomb, well inside what should have been the lethal zone, and survived with only minor injuries because she was inside a reinforced concrete building. Let that sink in. The building saved her. If you are in this zone when a blast happens, your #1 job in those first seconds: get low, get away from windows, get to the center or basement of whatever solid structure you're in. You can survive here, realistically, not easily, but realistically. The blast wave is still arriving. Shockwaves rebound off buildings, the terrain, and even the atmosphere. Damage in this zone is highly variable. One block might be devastated. The next block over might be standing. What you feel: a massive pressure wave. It throws you off your feet. Within a 6 kilometer radius, blast waves produce 180 metric tons of force on the walls of all 2-story buildings, with wind speeds of 255 kilometers per hour. Windows are gone, every single one. Flying glass causes injuries out to several miles from the blast. This is actually one of the top causes of non-fatal injuries at this range. Flying glass moving at hundreds of kilometers per hour. The heat flash has already reached you before the blast wave. You might have burns on any exposed skin. Third-degree burns, the kind that destroy and blister skin tissue, can affect anyone within 8 kilometers. Darker clothing absorbs more energy. Lighter clothing offers slightly more protection. Here's what most people don't know. You have a warning sign before the blast wave arrives. That white flash, the thermal flash, travels at the speed of light. The blast wave travels much slower. There are seconds between them. If you see that flash and you're still standing, you have a few seconds to act. If you are outside, lie face down immediately. This protects exposed skin from heat and flying debris. After the shockwave passes, get inside the nearest building as fast as possible. Flat on the ground, face down, hands covering the back of your neck. Those seconds matter. The direct explosion isn't going to kill you here, but you are not safe, not even close. At 5 kilometers, you're in what's officially called the light damage zone. At this distance, you'll experience window breakage, possible burns, and radiation risk. Shelter is required. You might be knocked off your feet by the pressure wave. You might have flash burns. Your ears are ringing. The sky behind you is dark with smoke. And you're confused, because nothing in your life has prepared you for what just happened. This is the zone where most people make the biggest mistake. They run toward the blast, to help, to find family, to see what happened. Don't. Fallout generally begins to accumulate about 15 minutes after the explosion. This window gives survivors of the blast time to find adequate shelter. 15 minutes. That's your window. Use it. If a multi-story building or a basement can be safely reached within a few minutes of the explosion, go there immediately. The safest buildings have brick or concrete walls. Underground parking garages and subways also provide good shelter. The 3 rules from FEMA, the U.S. Federal Emergency Management Agency, are simple. Get inside. Stay inside. Stay tuned. Not into any building. Into the best building you can reach. Brick, concrete, underground. The more material between you and the outside air, the better. You don't feel the blast here. You don't feel the heat. But something happens that most people completely forget about: the flash. For a 1 megaton bomb, people up to 21 kilometers away would experience flash blindness on a clear day. At night, that range extends to 85 kilometers. If you happen to be looking toward the horizon when it went off, you could be temporarily blinded, not permanently, but temporarily. That blindness lasts minutes to hours, and then comes the real threat at this distance: fallout. Radioactive fallout is unique to nuclear weapons. The dominant lethal effects last from days to weeks, and contemporary civil defense recommendations are for survivors to stay inside for at least 48 hours while radiation decreases. Fallout isn't a cloud of green gas like in movies. It's radioactive debris, dirt and radioactive material that rises after the explosion and then falls back to Earth, collecting on surfaces and giving off dangerous radiation. It looks like dust or ash. It settles silently. Traces of Cold War nuclear tests have been found all the way down in the Mariana Trench, the deepest point in the world's oceans. That's how far this material travels. At 15 to 30 kilometers from the blast, the explosion didn't kill you. Fallout can still. The same rule applies. Get inside the best shelter you can find. Stay there. Here's the thing most people don't know about nuclear weapons. They're terrifying, but they're not magic. Physics is physics. Distance is protection. Walls are protection. Time is protection. And knowing what to do in those first 15 minutes, that's the difference between a survivor and a casualty. In a study of a 10-kiloton explosion in Washington, D.C., if everyone stayed outside for the first 12 hours, there would be 280,000 casualties from fallout radiation alone. But if everyone went inside an adequate shelter, like a home basement, that number dropped drastically. Shelter changed everything. That's not a comforting thought. It's an empowering one. You now know what most people don't, and knowledge, in this case, is survival. If this video made you think, share it, subscribe, and stay tuned for other eye-opening geopolitical reports.